What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Tate Talk Sports Podcast. I'm back with another video today. Today, I'm going to be doing a little sports update because there's been a lot that's gone on in the past few days and weeks, and I want to cover all of it in this video. Today, I'm going to talk a bit about the draft lottery that happened last night, what happened in the Sixers and Hawks series and the upcoming Eastern Conference Finals, as well as talking about the current Western Conference Finals with the Suns and the Clippers. So firstly, I'm going to get into the draft lottery. If you didn't watch it last night, it was quite short. Not that you didn't really miss a whole lot, but I'm going to go talk about it a little bit and some small points just because in the future, especially closer to the draft, I'll probably be doing some sort of mock draft of probably the draft lottery. So I don't want to get too deep into where I think anyone's going to go, but just for the sake of this video, the top four teams coming out of that draft lottery, the four teams that got the top four picks are: number one, the Detroit Pistons. Number two was the Houston Rockets. The number three pick is Cleveland Cavaliers, and the number four pick is the Toronto Raptors. So not too many surprises in that group. Obviously, a lot of people thought Houston would be number one or the Magic would be a lot higher. The Magic ended up going to 5, as well as the Thunder. Some people thought they would be higher, but they are also number 6. So not too many surprises. I would say Toronto being at 4 is somewhat of a surprise, but otherwise, that's kind of makes sense for how it stacks out. After the lottery, it's still so with Detroit getting the number 1 pick, it looks like they'll probably go with Cade Cunningham. That he was kind of the known number 1 pick. There hasn't really been too much debate about that, but if Detroit does take Cade Cunningham, what happens to Killian Hayes? And if you don't know who Killian Hayes is, he was their first round draft pick, one of their first round draft picks last year, a point guard out of France, who I think played well this year, but I think he played a bit off and on. I think he was kind of injured, and he's supposed to have great potential, but he is a point guard and a ball handler. So if they do take Cade Cunningham, that's kind of taking the ball out of his hands. Does he get moved to more of a bench role or a more of an off-ball role? What happens to him? That's kind of the question that's arising because Detroit is most likely going to go with Cade Cunningham. But that's just one of the storylines. And who goes next is actually, as of right now, somewhat unknown. My guess is it'll become more clear as the closer we get to the draft, because typically once we get around draft time, it's especially, I'd say, top 3 or 4 picks, you generally know who's going where. But as of right now, it's pretty unknown. You've obviously the top prospects. You've got Cade Cunningham, like I said, he's probably going to go number 1. You've got Jalen Suggs out of Gonzaga, Mobley out of USC, and so many other players, Jalen Green and Kuminga, both from the G League. A lot of prospects. Right now, it's generally looking like Mobley will go to Houston. I think Houston should go with Suggs just because they've already got Christian Wood. And I think Suggs is going to have more of an impact instantly. I think Mobley is a bit too skinny to have a massive impact at first, but we'll see how it shakes out. It'll become clear, like I said, as we get closer to the draft. So that's it for really what went on with the draft lottery. The Hawks beat the 76ers in Game 7 to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Obviously, probably one of the biggest stories this whole season, let alone playoffs. And it's a real disappointment for the 76ers to lose to the Hawks, period, but to lose in Game 7 at home is a real massive disappointment for that fan base, for that team, for the process, and just a real big disappointment. And obviously the biggest story coming out of that series was not the Hawks, but Ben Simmons' abysmal performances in all of the games. I believe in the entire series, it was something like he only took 4 shots in the fourth quarter. And you can't be a superstar player doing that. And also, I believe he shot something like 30% from the free throw line this playoffs, and that was the worst in NBA history in the playoffs, in a league where players like Shaquille O'Neal and Wilt Chamberlain shot free throws. So that shows you how poorly he shot from the free throw line, and how mentally I don't want to say unstable, that's the wrong word, but mentally affected he was by how poorly he was playing and the effect it was having on his team. And you could clearly see Daryl Morey and Embiid weren't too happy with him. And Doc Rivers even saying he doesn't know if he can win a championship with Ben Simmons as the point guard on the team. I kind of feel bad for the guy because he's being attacked by any analyst, and every analyst is attacking Ben Simmons for good reason. He deserves it, but you got to feel bad for the guy because, you hate to see him be attacked in such a way. But it's true, he needs to be better, and he's already said he's skipping the Olympics. And the Sixers have said they're going to work on his shot. They're going to improve his shot. He's talked about switching his shooting hand, which I don't know how that can help him, but apparently he looks better shooting with his other hand. I don't know. We'll see what happens there, but real mess in Philly right now. They got to figure it out. Will they trade Simmons? Will they keep him? What will happen? We will see. That is yet to be discovered. But obviously, not to be dismissed, the Hawks have to get the credit. Probably the biggest surprise this playoffs. The other surprise maybe is the Suns for some people, but they were highly seeded versus the Hawks, who weren't, and they're here in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Milwaukee Bucks. Who would have thought? But big credit to them. Their players are making shots. They've got amazing game plans. Their coach is coaching them well. Trae Young is playing amazing. He deserves all the credit in the world. Not the greatest game 7, but he came through when it counts, and that's really all that matters. So, big surprise for them. And obviously that means the Eastern Conference Finals are going to be the Atlanta Hawks versus the Milwaukee Bucks. Certainly not what I predicted as far as the Hawks go, but I did predict the Bucks getting there. Bucks should be the favorite in this series, although I do think it's going to be a very, very good series. I think both teams kind of attack the kryptonite of the other. I think Giannis brings that post presence and inside attack, as well as Middleton having a really good ISO game that the Hawks aren't great at defending because they don't have the greatest defenders in the world. They've got Capella, who's all right, but not a great defender. Very good, much better offensively, and they don't have too many really perimeter stoppers. DeAndre Hunter's a good defender, but obviously he's very young. He's not going to be able to stop a guy like Giannis, and probably not even Middleton. So they're going to really attack each other, and I can see this series going far, probably 6 or 7 games. I could see it going there just because these teams are going to go back and forth. And what it's going to come down to is if the Bucks can damper the Hawks offense, because I think the Bucks are going to be able to score. Now, they didn't look too good at times, especially in that Nets series offensively. However, I do think they got their rhythm towards the end. And I think the Hawks defense is poor enough to where the Bucks are going to be able to score. The question is, will the Bucks and their fantastic defenders be able to stop the Hawks offense? And I personally think they will. They've got so many good defenders. They've got PJ Tucker. They've got Drew Holiday, Giannis, Brook Lopez, all these guys who are going to have an effect. They may not stop guys like Trae Young and guys like Bogdanovich, but they will be able to slow them down. And if they can do that, I think that'll be enough for them to get it and to make it to the finals. So obviously the other series that's going on right now is the Western Conference Finals, and that is the Suns versus the Clippers. Suns with an amazing win last night at the time of recording this video, winning off of a basically last second inbound play. What an amazing game. Obviously, Paul George missing 2 free throws at the end, getting a lot of flack for that, as he should. But it's really just a big series, and they're up 2-0, but obviously, as we've seen these playoff, the Clippers have come back from 2-0 twice already. And however, they don't have Kawhi, and I don't think they come back from down 2-0 Kawhi. I don't think they win this series without Kawhi, but coming back 2-0 without him doesn't look super possible. And my guess personally, this is not off of any reports. There are no reports saying this. So this is just me, observing. But my guess is Kawhi is out for what is essentially the season and playoffs. And they're not announcing it so that his threat is even mentally there for the other team, because when he went down, there were rumors and reports that the injury was somewhat related to the ACL. And when you hear ACL, it's not good. And rarely does any sort of ACL injury put you out only a few weeks. Even if it's just an ACL strain, generally 4 to 6 weeks, almost out of caution. And, Kawhi Leonard, usually you can somewhat play on an ACL injury, but I cannot see Kawhi Leonard doing it because it could really damage him long-term more than he wants. And unless it is a super minor ACL injury, again, it's been super cryptic about what this injury really is. But when you hear anything about ACL, rarely is that injury a few weeks. So I don't see Kawhi coming back in this series. If he does, they've got a shot. But even if he does, I think especially with Chris Paul, the Suns beat them out. They've got the want to that the Clippers don't seem to have. And And also the Suns' best players and role players are playing seemingly the best they have all season. Ayton is amazing. He's playing so well, especially in that game two. Booker, not as good in that game two, but was amazing in game one. Seems like the second coming of Kobe Bryant. Playing so tough last game, even with basically what seemed like a totally destroyed nose with stitches in his nose and cotton in his nostrils. It was a real mess, but he still came through in the end, set an amazing screen. And even the role players, like I said, are stepping up massive. Jay Crowder, Cameron Payne, Cameron Johnson, all these guys are playing amazing, and it's making dividends for the Suns. And I think especially up 2-0, I don't think they lose this series. So that gets into my prediction for the finals, which is Suns versus Bucks. Again, very, very close series. I think both teams, I think it's an interesting matchup, who guards who, but I think again, like the Hawks and Bucks series, it'll come down to, can the Bucks slow down the Suns? I think it'll be a fairly close game most of the games, almost like the Nets and Bucks series was. But I think the Bucks will be able to somewhat score as well as they can, as well as the Suns being able to somewhat score what they can. It's going to come down to who stops the other. And I think on paper, I believe that it will be the Bucks who slow down the Suns, just because they've got, like I said before, Drew Holiday, Giannis, Brook Lopez, PJ Tucker. They've got these guys who are amazing, amazing defenders. Drew Holiday being voted by, not voted, but said by some of his, most of his colleagues, including Kevin Durant, that he's the best defensive guard in the league. So, he'd hopefully be able to slow down the likes of Devin Booker. So I think with the amount of top defenders and they have, and their offense seeming to get clicking, if they do make it to the finals and play the Suns, I think they will win. So that's my prediction. Bucks winning. I'm going to stick with the Bucks despite them not playing the Lakers as I previously guessed. So that's it for me, guys. That's it for my sports update. Obviously, more stuff going on today with the first game of the Eastern Conference Finals, and everything else going on in the sporting world. Obviously, the Euros are about to get in the knockout stages, about to get interesting. So I do recommend you guys check that out. They'll be starting this Saturday. But that's it for me. If you have any ideas for a video or any topics for a video you want me to do, please let me know in the comments. I would love to read them and see what you guys want. But I'll be back in the next few days to do another sports update or something on the Euros or any big event that's going on. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.